HIMS.
Okay, everybody. Hello. This is the Pat Price Tech Talk Training Room, and welcome. Today is August 28th, 2023, and you've got Alan Limley tonight because Larry and John Gassman are barbershop quartetting somewhere. I don't know where they are, but they're away. So you got Alan and Myrna leading the charge tonight, and that's enough for me. So I'm going to turn it over to Myrna to introduce our guest. Take it away, Myrna.
Okay, so tonight I really have been looking forward to for a while, and with great anticipation because I knew it was going to happen, and it finally did. And what I'm talking about is one of my now favorite gadgets that I play with every day, and it's the SensePlayer from HIMS. And Earle Harrison is going to come to talk to us about it, and he's going to demo some stuff. And then all of you, well, not all of you, but lots of you are going to get a chance to ask questions at the end. So it's going to be really good because this update that they made to it is fantastic. I've been so excited ever since I started to play with it. So Earle, it's yours.
Thank you, Myrna, and thank you everybody for taking the time this evening to join us to talk about the recently released SensePlayer 2.0 firmware. I am so honored and privileged to once again be presenting it on the infamous Pat Price room for Tech Talk. And you have to forgive me, I just had a bowl of chili, homemade chili, and I have to clear my voice out because I think I put too many habanero peppers in there, but it was good. Anyway, I digress usually. So again, my name is Earle Harrison, and what I'm going to do today is talk about, as mentioned, the firmware update, but I'm also going to backtrack a little bit for those of you who may not have heard me a couple months back, and for those of you who are new to the SensePlayer and don't really have a concept for what it is. Again, I was here about 3 months ago when we had just released the SensePlayer. I have to tell you that early on in the development of this device, I was approached by the higher ups, and what do you think about a new handheld device? And they told me all the things it was going to be able to do. And I just very smugly chuckled and I said, guys, ever heard of a cell phone? And so I got this thing in my hands as a tester, as an employee of course, for HIMS. And I was very quickly served a large portion of humble pie because it just dawned on me what a fabulous device it is. It's kind of like I refer to it as the Swiss Army knife of multimedia machines. I mean, it is so flexible, and the 2.0 firmware release has only made it more so. But let's talk about the theory and the reason for the device. They want to develop a device that served as a portable book reader, of course. And for those of you who go way back with me, you remember the days of the BookSense, and then later on the Blaze series. And I actually do know people who still have their BookSense and they still use it, but I know that we have gotten some people who have converted to the SensePlayer from their BookSense. So we're talking 15 years ago, folks, when the BookSense was out. And then, of course, the Blaze came out, and I thought that was a pretty decent book reader itself, and it had some really cool features as well. But the SensePlayer has added some new dimensions to what we would ordinarily consider to be a book reader, multimedia machine, a field recorder, things along those lines. What we are not, and I kind of wish it was, but we are not, it is not a cell phone. Okay. So, although I do wish you had the ability to pop a SIM card in there and go, or use the camera to take a picture of an eSIM and use it in that way. What it is a really good multimedia player and recorder again, and a book reader with some expanded functionality along those lines. What we're not trying to be is, I heard somebody on one of the lists say, an all dancing, all singing device, but what we want it to be is a very useful device. And I think we've really hit the mark with that. So I'm holding in my hands the SensePlayer, which is about the size of, I don't know, as far as the form factor goes, a pack of cigarettes, maybe. I don't know, maybe a little longer than that. I'm not a smoker, not since I was in 11th grade, but no, a little bit longer than a pack of cigarettes, but thinner. And we've got a whole bunch of buttons on the front, 4 going across the top, and I'll go from left to right. We've got the mode button, which allows us to assign some of our most frequently used favorite applications. We've got the Wi-Fi button. To the right of that, we've got the Bluetooth button, and to the right of that, we've got the Smart Connect button. And we'll talk a little bit about what each of those do later. But the important thing to remember about those 4 very distinct buttons across the top is that they are all triple action keys. And that, of course, means that they each have 3 functions. And I'll go ahead and demonstrate that in a little while. Beneath those 4 buttons, we have a I guess for lack of a better description, a 4-directional keypad or arrow keys. They are actually shaped like arrows with an O in the middle, which stands for OK. So that's our OK button, right? To the left of the up arrow key, we've got the home button. To the right of the up arrow key, we have the menu button. To the left of the down arrow, we have the cancel button, and to the right of the down arrow, we've got the delete button. Now beneath that, we have our keypad, basically our T9 keypad, and we'll be just showing you a little bit about how that's going to work. If you all remember back in the day of talking cell phones with keyboards, and you T9, you did like number 2 3 times for the letter C, number 3 2 times for the letter E, etc. Well, that's how this works as well, but it actually goes beyond that. So on the right side, we only have 2 things. We've got a power button, which I'm going to go ahead and press and release now. And we hear a nice ascending tone, followed by what you might hear if you were using a Braille Sense, and it says File Manager, just like you would hear if you got into the main menu of the Braille Sense. Well, that means that we're in the main menu of the SensePlayer. Beneath the power button is the lock key. So if you're walking around, you don't want to accidentally push buttons and end up in Never Never Land while you're listening to some music or a book, you can just flick that down and rest assured that you're not going to accidentally do anything you didn't want to do as you're listening to things and doing other things around the house. Going back to the power button, I should have mentioned that now we have the option, in this is a 2.0 feature. If I press and hold the power button, we'll go to the option of actually powering off, just like we did with the previous version and just like you would experience on the Braille Sense. But if I right arrow, you see we have added the option to either restart, or we can go to cancel. So restart's a nice new feature. So you remember before you had to, if you wanted to power down because you wanted to get a fresh start with the device, you would power it down and you'd say to yourself, I wonder if it's all the way powered down. And if I should turn it on right now, well, restart eliminates that.
Power off combo box.
So let's
restart combo box. Cancel combo box.
Go ahead and cancel that. I just arrow to the right and I'm going to press the OK button.
File Manager.
And I'm back to the main menu. Almost done here, folks, with the description. On the left side, and the button by itself, it's got a little bit of texture. And it has a little rocking feel to it. Somebody asked me about the other day, and it seems that that's pretty consistent. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just the way it is. So the one below that, the button by itself beneath that, allows us to select what the up and down buttons do, and those are beneath that button. So we've got this button that
Voice volume
switches
10.
between the voice volume.
Voice rate 7. Voice pitch 5. Main volume 12. Voice volume 10.
And this is somewhat context sensitive. So these options are going to change depending on what we're using. So if we're in the book reader, or or the document reader, or the Daisy book reader, these buttons will have some other options. So that's what's so nice about the SensePlayer, is it is very contextual in nature, and that actually goes for the keyboard help as well. Beneath the buttons that adjust our volume, rate, pitch, and so forth, we have an SD micro card slot. I happen to have a terabyte in my, which I've yet to use. I've got it in there though, by golly, a terabyte worth of space in there. And because the device actually comes with 64 gig on board itself, and that's a lot. But I understand, on the bottom, we have a 1/8" standard headphone jack. So for those of you who love your headphone jacks with the 1/8", I'm actually plugging it. I've got mine plugged into the auxiliary in on my little Rockville mixer over here, and that's how I'm able to, share
File manager.
the audio from my SensePlayer with you all. But to the right of that, on the bottom of the device, we also have a USB-C port, and of course, the USB-C port, USB-C being what it is, a very robust protocol, allows us to take any number of plug-and-play devices, whether they be cameras or so theoretically, if somebody got a non-OCR version, but eventually they decided they wanted to use a camera, they could plug a camera into here and use the OCR. Well, some OCR functions. It wouldn't be the OCR function of the SensePlayer itself, but you could install some of the third-party OCR apps and use it with a non-OCR version. The version I have here today that I'm going to show you is the OCR version. So there are two versions. And if you were to sit there and hold one in one hand and then the other one in the other, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the two, because the only difference is that one has a camera and the other does not. The form factor is identical though. Okay, so that is all of that. We have stereo speakers on the front. We have stereo microphones, kind of one in the upper left corner on the edge, and one on the bottom right corner on the right edge. And let's go ahead and get into the user interface. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press the
File manager.
the home button, home key, which is to the left of the up arrow. And just like on our note takers and on the SensePlayer before, we have
Media player.
all these things. We've got the media player,
Daisy player. Document reader. FM radio. OCR. Web radio. Podcasts. Library services. Utilities. Settings.
okay, settings,
All apps.
all apps. So this is something new. The SensePlayer previously did not have an all apps folder, and we are going to go in there in a little while here, but I wanted to touch on a couple other things before we go into third-party apps.
File manager.
Let's go into
Media player.
the file manager.
File manager. File manager. Flash disk 1 to list item.
And as we hear, I've got two items in here. Up and down moves me between the different drives. I've got the flash disk, which is internal,
SD2 to list item.
and the SD
one to list
rather.
item.
I'm gonna go back to flash disk and press right arrow to expand this.
Apps 116 list item.
And here we have all the folders on my device here.
Audiobooks 216 list item.
So something that is added automatically to Android devices in general is an offering called audiobooks. And one of the features that we recently added to the SensePlayer is the ability to listen to audio files as an audiobook. So you may have an archive of books that you had on MP3 if you copy those audio files into this folder, it will proceed to behave like a book when you go to listen to it, because it's in the audiobooks folder. And that means that it's going to remember your bookmarks, and it's going to remember your end mark. So where you were when you left the app. So when you come back in to your audiobook that you've placed in this folder, it will remember your place. And it eliminates some of the things that you would not expect in an audiobook player, such as shuffle. And you don't want to shuffle your chapters, do you? And repeat chapters and things like that. So it gives you some added functionality in the audiobooks folder. So
Bookshare 316 list item.
just copy the files into the folder, and you'll be good to go. We got, of course, the Bookshare folder, and let me just go ahead and navigate down through here.
Daisy 416 list item. Database 516 list item.
So I can open the database or the not the database, but
Daisy
the
416
Daisy
list
book
item.
reader.
Bookshare 316.
Bookshare.
Daisy 4 database. Documents 616 list
There's
item.
documents,
Download 716 list item.
downloads,
Log data 816 list item. MP3 backing tracks
log
916
data,
list item.
MP3 backing tracks, which is all my backing tracks for when I do live performances, and I just make my own backing tracks.
Music 1016 list item.
And there's the music folder that comes on the SensePlayer
OCR
by
1116 list
default.
item.
OCR folder,
Podcast 1216
etc.
list item.
There's podcasts.
Sense Memo 1316 list item.
So let's go ahead and go into
SensePlayer Apps 1416 list item.
let's go ahead and go up here into
Documents 616 list item.
let's go back to the main menu.
File Manager.
So I went back to main menu, and the thing that I want to point out here is that there are ways to get to things pretty quickly. So if I wanted to go, and all you have to do is know how to count, right? So the first thing in here is File Manager. So if I press number 1, File Manager is going to open. And so if I'm down to the bottom and I decide I want to go to File Manager, I just press number 1. So let's just continue to count. Number 2 is
Media Player.
Media Player.
Daisy Player.
3 is Daisy Player.
Document Reader.
There's our document reader. That's number 4.
FM Radio.
FM radio.
OCR. Web Radio. Podcasts.
So
Library Services.
let's say that I want to go to my document reader. So I heard that was number 4. I'll just press number 4 right from where I am.
Document Reader. Loading. VT4.pdf open.
However, this is normal and does not indicate.
And it has actually remembered where I was in this book, which is a manual for a new vocal processor that I got, and I just pressed OK to stop it from reading. As you can hear, I'm listening to all my user interface things, the menus and dialogues and such with Tom, which is a nuanced voice, but I've got Heather
3. Transforming your voice.
actually reading the
ECFFT editing the ECFFT. 1.
The
Connect your mic
document.
to the mic and jack front or rear 1. Press the manual button. You can press a scene memory button to recall a saved effect. And if you connect a
So this is helpful if I want to somehow differentiate between, whether I'm listening to the menu or whether I'm listening to a book, or maybe I have a better time, a more comfortable time listening to a British accent. You can access all
Voice settings.
of the voice settings
6612 list item.
just by pressing the star key, and I'll go in here.
Set pitch. 5510 list item.
Oh, it's doing some funky things in here. You hear the little crackle. Okay, so I'm going to go. There's pitch,
Set volume. 7710 list item. Voice name. English Samantha 22 list item.
and there's voice name Samantha.
Autoplay. On 12 list item. Mark alert. None 13 list item.
So I found it a little startling autoplay when I get into a book for it just to start blah, 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 reading from where it kept off. I'd rather have manual control over that. So I'm going
Autoplay. On 12 list item.
to go ahead and arrow back up to it, and I'm going to right arrow
Off list item.
to turn that off. So the next time I get in, it's just not going to start blathering at me, or I shouldn't call it blathering. That's not very nice. Reading to me the book that I've selected or the document I've selected. And the beauty about this is that I just opened a PDF folder document. This manual is actually a PDF. So the SensePlayer supports numerous media formats as well as document formats, including PowerPoint, Excel, etc., DLC, DOCX, EPUB, and on and on. I'll just go ahead and down arrow through this menu here.
Mark alert. None 13 list item. Skip empty lines. Off 1 to list item.
Skip empty lines. Okay, and that's the end of it. That's our end of end of the menu. I'm going to press OK to select my change, the one that I've made. Or I can actually
Mark alert. Auto. Voice name. English Samantha 2 to list item.
and I'm going to go ahead and left arrow.
English Tom list item.
And because I say I want to switch it back to Tom. Now they're both the same, but maybe I want to change my menu voice to Samantha. Or better still, maybe if I were multilingual, I wanted to switch it to a different language entirely because I've got documents on my SensePlayer that I would like to listen to in that language. So it comes in handy for that as well. So I'm going to press down on the OK button here.
Word.
Oh.
Line.
Okay. And then, so now I'm in my book.
Condenser mic to the mic and jack reader via an
Listening to all the exciting
Clear
stuff
an
about
XL
condenser mics and such. And if I up and down arrow here, I can hear all the units that I can move by.
Word.
And by the way, that speech feature, the ability to listen in a different voice, that is a 2.0 feature.
Character.
And now I'm navigating down through the things that the units that I can navigate by. So with character being the smallest granulation here.
N D E N S R M I.
And if I down arrow again,
Phonetic.
there's phonetics. What is this?
C Charlie. T Tango.
Okay.
Beginning or end of book.
There's beginning or end of book. And how useful is that? I mean, maybe sometimes you want to go to the beginning, but who wants to jump straight to the end of the book? So what I'm going to do, this is a 2.0 function, and it works the same in the document reader as well as the Daisy book reader and the podcast player. So I'm going to go ahead and go in.
Menu open. Explorer mode 0 long dialog menu item.
To the menu button.
Move by %5 dialog menu item. Move by page 6 voice settings star dialog. Search word 8 dialog. Toggle manual continue. Book information 0 dialog. Movement unit settings dialog menu item.
And this is what I want. I want movement unit settings.
Unit settings dialog. Line on list item.
So what I'm doing here is I'm selecting the things that I want to have access to when I'm reading a document. And let's just go ahead and usually I don't want to go a line at a time. So as I'm arrowing up and down through this list, I'm going to select, yes, I want that. It's kind of like when you guys are setting up your rotors. If you're iOS users, you can select what goes on the rotor. So this is kind of the same thing in terms of navigation. So I'm going to right arrow.
On list item. On list item. Page on 1 to list item. Line on list item. On list item.
No, I want off.
Page.
I think
beginning or end of book.
Oh, I think I somehow got out.
Menu open.
Let me do this again.
Explorer mode 0 long dialog menu. Movement to unit settings dialog menu. Movement to unit settings dialog. Line on list item. On list item. Page on 1 to list item. Off list item.
So page, maybe I want that.
On list item. Paragraph on 1 to list item.
Paragraph can be useful.
Sentence on 1 to list item.
Hardly ever do sentence to sentence. So
off list item.
I'd left arrow to turn that off.
Word on 1 to list item.
Word. When I'm reading documents, maybe I'll keep that on.
Character on 1 to list item.
They're all on by default. Characters, definitely.
Phonetic on 1 to list item.
Phonetic, well, having the hearing deficit that I have, sometimes it could be helpful to hear the difference between a D and a B.
Beginning or end of book on 1 to list item.
And I would say, no, I generally don't want to go all the way to the beginning or all the way
off list item
to the end of a book. And that's the end. So I'm going to press OK. And now if I up and down arrow through here.
Paragraph. Line. Word.
All I have.
Character. Phonetic.
Are the things that I've selected
page
in here.
Paragraph.
And yours may look completely different. You may like having access to all of them, or you may not. You may only want to navigate by line, sentence, paragraphs when you're reading documents. It's totally configurable. So with that, let's go. Speaking of configurable, let's go back out to our main menu. Always press the
file manager
home button for that. And I can't remember what number podcast is.
Media player.
So I'm going to just arrow down. 4.
FM radio. OCR. Web radio. Podcast.
There's podcast. So let's go ahead and go into podcasts
Podcasts.
here.
Creating feed list. Feed list creation complete. Feed living blindfully 1142 list item.
And everybody knows about the Living Blindfully podcast, formerly known as Mosen at Large. And that came up in my feed list because it's the last thing that I listened to on my SensePlayer as I was tooling around today. But let's go ahead and let's go down to our own
Ouch. The Cabin Fever Podcast 15. Podcast 642 list item.
SenseCast.
Questlove Supreme. Radio Diary. Read on. Revisionist History. RNIB Tech. Science in Action 22. Science. Quickly. SenseCast 2442 list item.
So there's SenseCast podcast. I'll go ahead and write Earle on that.
Feed. Episode. SenseCast episode 11. SensePlayer v2.0 update partially played. 2 seconds.
So-
11 list item.
I really had to fight the urge to just come on and say, hi, my name's Earle Harrison, and here's Jenny Axler showing you all the features about the 2.0. I wanted to cheat like that a little bit, but because she does an outstanding job on this, not only the podcast, but she had actually made the section about the 2.0 features into one of the sections of the tutorials. Which comes on all the SensePlayers. When you buy a SensePlayer, there's now like over 6 hours worth of content to teach you how to use the SensePlayer, in addition to keyboard help and the entire manual on the device. I mean, you've got options here, and the nice thing about keyboard help is it is contextual. So one of my favorite things to do when I'm at on the exhibit hall floor, and I don't want people to take my SensePlayer and put it into Never Never Land and tool all over and make a lot of changes. I'll put it into keyboard help mode, and then they can press the keys to hear what those keys do in context of where I am. So let me just go ahead and demo that real quick. I'll press and hold the OK button.
Key help mode on.
And it's this key help mode on. So I'm in the podcast player. And let's just see what these keys do when I'm in the player.
Number 8 opens the search for podcast dialog. Number 5 reads the current character in the podcast or episode name. Press twice to hear both the military and phonetic of the current character. Number 2 has no function in the podcast's app. Number 3 moves up one page of items from the current position. You can adjust the number of items per page in the global options. Number 1 moves to the top of the podcast or episode list. Star key opens the description of the current episode. Long press to activate the sleep timer.
All
Number
right.
0, toggle selection and deselection. Long press to cycle between selection modes. Select all, select to bottom, select to top, and start continuous selection.
So it's very descriptive based on where you are. I'll go ahead and long press the OK button again
Key help mode off.
to turn off key help mode off. Because what I'd like to do
Feed, SenseCast 2442 list item.
is we'll go ahead and
SenseCast.
play
Checking the
this.
download file.
Checking the download file.
Hello,
Ooh.
everyone, and welcome back to SenseCast, the international podcast from HIMSS. I am your host, Jenny Axler, and in this episode, we are going to cover all the new functions, enhancements, and fixes in version 2.0 for the SensePlayer. We have included many additions and enhancements based.
Okay, so there's our Jenny Axler, and if we go into if we start navigating up and down here,
3 minutes. 5 minutes. 3 minutes. 1 minute.
these are all the units that we can navigate our podcast by. And if
30 seconds. 10 seconds. 5 seconds.
I mean,
1 hour.
so and it wraps around to 1 hour as being the longest time.
5 seconds.
So to me, I feel like 5 seconds is probably not necessary. I could go into the menu system and change all of these as well. But let's go ahead and we'll go back into our list.
0 for the Sense.
I'm gonna press cancel.
Episode. SenseCast episode 11.
And I'm gonna go back.
2.0 update
So we've
partial
got two
update.
lists here.
19
We've got
seconds,
the
111
list of our podcasts, and we've got the feeds within the programs within the feed.
Feed. SenseCast 2442.
And let's go back up to Living Blindfully.
Site. Radio Diaries. Questlove. Propcast 16. Ouch. The Cabin. Optimal Health Daily 14. NBC.
And a lot of these
Audio,
things are
1442 list item.
already in here. If there's something you want to get rid of,
Money Talks from The Economist 1242 list item.
Just press the delete key and it'll prompt you to ask you if you want to get rid of it, and you just press the OK button and it's gone.
Living Blindfully 1142
So
list
let's
item.
go ahead and
Feed Living Blindfully 1142 list item. Episode iOS 17 towards the end of its test phase. Listeners comment on SensePlayer 2.0 and some concerning absences from Mastodon partially played. 1 second 244 list item.
So here again, we've got another program that the SensePlayer is a topic of discussion, and that has been the case for a lot of weeks running. So we're getting some pretty positive feedback out there on the other podcasts, including this one. And by and large, people are really loving the SensePlayer. But that's not what I wanted to bring you here for. What I wanted to show you is
Feed Living Blindfully 1142 list item.
Let's go in
Episode
here.
iOS 17 towards the end of its test phase. Listeners comment on SensePlayer 2.0 and some concerning.
Let's go ahead.
Checking the download file.
Charles here with the Blind Grilling Experience, where we talk all things cooking, grilling, and barbecue, tips, tricks, and techniques for the blind and visually impaired.
And I can't believe I didn't know about that podcast until just now, because I am a smoking and grilling freak. Anyway, outdoor cooking kind of fiend. If I up arrow,
Chapter.
on virtue of the fact that Mr. Mosen marks his podcast up with chapters, I can actually navigate by chapter. If he didn't, this option wouldn't even be here.
All things accessible.
So let's go from
technology
chapter to
centered
chapter.
Around
From Wellington, New Zealand to the world, it's the Living Blindfully podcast.
Hey, Jonathan, it's Dennis Long. How you?
Let's talk about the SensePlayer 2.0
Yes,
firmware.
let's.
Christopher Wright starts us off with a very comprehensive email. He says, here are my initial thoughts on the new SensePlayer update.
Okay. So if you want to go listen to that podcast, you're certainly welcome to do it. It's actually very favorable by and large. So that's a difference. So Jenny didn't use markers for chapters in hers, so it didn't even appear here, and it does not appear in the unit move by unit menu. You know, where you can select yes, you want it or not. It only appears if those chapter markers are present to begin with. Okay, let's go ahead and move to the radio.
File Manager.
And I'm going to go ahead and navigate up here because I
Pull out. Settings.
think I'm closer.
Utilities. Library services. Podcasts. Web radio.
There's web radio,
OCR.
OCR,
FM radio.
and FM radio. Oh, FM radio has been around for a while, but in here, so just know that if you want the FM radio to work, and you can go in here and figure this out yourself in terms of how the radio works, know that you have to have a wire extended from the headphone jack. So even though you can tell it to play from the speakers, it's the headphone wire is what serves as your antenna. Let's go down to the web radio.
OCR. Web radio.
And go in there.
Web radio. Channel list. Love radio. www.love.radio1395 list item.
So we have a lot of radio stations in here, 95 of them actually. Love radio is where I left off in here. And if I wanted to hear this, I could just press the okie dokie button. And now we're listening. Oh, to music all about love.
Pause.
It's pretty awesome. If I want to do a search for a radio, let's go into the menus
Menu
here.
open. Go to number dialog menu. Radio browser search 8 dialog menu item. Radio shore search 0 dialog menu item. Update channel database menu item.
There's our update channel database.
Go to number dialog menu item. Radio browser search 8 dialog menu item.
Yeah, let's search here.
Radio browser search dialog. Search mode. Category 1 2 combo box.
So I could search by category.
Word 2 combo box.
Or I could search by word.
Search word. Question mark. Edit box.
Let's do I've got to use T9, so I'm going to do let's see, one of our local radio stations here in Minneapolis is K Q P Q R S
S.
KQRS. Press enter.
Result list 92K QRS URL HTTPS.
And there it
Player services,
is.
Stream to world.com. API live stream redirect cross mark AAC1 to list item.
So the web radio database has been made more robust, but I know that those radio files out there who say it's not robust yet enough, but it does make it easier to find your a lot of the channels that you're looking for. So I'll go ahead and let's play this.
Successfully added.
Or add this rather. So I've successfully added
Add the
it.
channel list button. Result list 92K QRS URL HTTPS. Channel already exists.
Oh.
Add the channel list button.
I forgot to exit.
Title, Channel 13 Making Love, Out of Nothing at All, 1996, Bonnie Tyler Stop.
Let's go down to the...
There's always...
Pause.
Come on.
Go to one channel.
Go to one channel.
Your dream
Go to first or last channel.
home just got a little more real. Bed Bath & Beyond is back.
Pause.
Sorry, guys.
Go to one channel. Go to 5 channels.
I want to go to first or last.
Go to one channel. Go to first or last channel.
I don't spend a lot of time in here. Let me just go to the...
Radio browser search dialog. Search mode, category 1-2 combo box. Channel list, got radio, adult and
That's all I
programming
wanted to do,
X12
is go to
96
the
list,
channel list.
92K QRS 96
So I pressed the number 7 because 7 basically brings me down to the end of whatever I'm in, whether it's a list or a menu. And number 1 brings me to the top.
Got radio, the 50s 196 list item.
Got radio. And okay, so I'm going to go back down to the end to the
92K QRS 9696 list item.
To the one that I want to add this one. First, I want to hear if it plays. Because some of these guys don't play for some reason. Oh, this one is. Oh, there's brother Jimmy.
Pause.
And I'm going to say, okay, yeah, that's cool. I want to have that at the top of my channel list, and this is a new feature. So let's go to menu.
Menu
here.
open. Go to radio browser search 8 dialog. Radio shore search 0 update channel database menu. Go to number dialog menu item. Radio browser search 8 dialog menu item. Radio shore search 0 dialog menu item. Update channel database menu item.
I think if I just press number 2 here, I'm new to this whole
menu flow.
web radio thing.
Title,
So
channel 96 92K QRS stop.
I'm gonna press number 2.
Loading. Pause. Menu open. Go to number dialog menu item.
Go to number.
Radio browser search 8 dialog menu item. Radio shore search 0 dialog menu item. Update channel database menu item. Go to number dialog menu item.
So I'm lost in here. I'm supposed to be able to, Mariner, you can help me out with this if you've been in here, but I want to show how I can actually reorder my channel list. I haven't spent enough time in here to
go to number dialog.
Do a very
current channel number 96. Total channels number 96. Go to number 96 edit box.
Bear with me.
Title channel 90. Go to one channel. Pause. Radio shore search dialog. Search mode category 1-2 combo box. Channel list got radio the 50s 196 list item. Radio shore search dialog.
Yeah. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. You know what?
List item. Web radio.
You know who does a really nice demo of this? Jenny Axler. Sorry, I've kind of fudged this one, but really, if you go listen to the SenseCast or the we've got it on our YouTube as well. The whole SenseCast deal right off of our homepage, hymns-inc.com. I'm going to move on because I'm stuck in the web radio.
File manager.
I'll learn how to do it after I don't have an audience here. Let's talk about probably the most significant addition to the 2.0 release, and that is the mobile screen reader. So the mobile screen reader, it's like, well, didn't you have a mobile screen reader on the old version? Well, not the way we do now. I mean, we can navigate and we could get menu items to voice and things like that. But what we have now is a mobile screen reader, which allows us to actually install third-party apps. So the SensePlayer now has a bunch of pre-programmed apps that, excuse me for just a second. Okay. Pre-program apps that allow you to install them if you'd like them.
File manager.
All
apps.
So what I've done is I've gone to the file manager. I'm going to right arrow on all apps, which
Amazon
is a
Alexa
folder. And on my device, let's just go ahead and I'll down arrow through here.
Amazon App Store. Apple Music. Audible. Barnes Mobile. BBC Sounds. Be My Eyes. Chrome. Dropbox. Speak. iHeartRadio. Lookout. Netflix. Pandora. Penny Forward. Skype. Zoom. App Installer. Amazon Alexa.
And we wrap around to Amazon Alexa, which is, of course, is alphabetical. And Amazon Alexa is the first thing in my list of third-party applications. And yes, it does work. A couple of things to know about the SensePlayer is that we're not trying to be a cell phone. We're not trying to be, again, this all-inclusive everything to everyone. And the reason we're not trying to do that is because this is the SensePlayer. While it is an Android device, it is not a Google Play Protect certified device. And what that means is that we didn't give Google a ton of money to certify the device because, to keep the costs relatively low and serve, our, let's face it, we are a low incidence market. It would have been cost prohibitive to do that. So we've done the best we can with what we have to work with within the parameters that we have to work with. And this means that because we're not a Google certified device, we don't have access to the Google Voices. So because of that, we have to
Amazon App Store. Audible. Barnes Mobile.
Install
BBC Sound. Be My Eyes. Chrome. Dropbox. Speak.
A free open source screen reader called eSpeak, which serves as our, for applications that are self-voicing that require that. But for the most part, you're going to use the nuanced voices that you've been listening to. But I'll show you one example where you will hear eSpeak chiming in from time to time.
Dropbox. Chrome.
The other thing that we have on here is Chrome. I think we're probably going to add other browser options as well. Edge, I understand, works pretty well on Android, so that might show up in our all applications list eventually. But in order to do things like take advantage of, let's use Bookshare for an example, the Bookshare API version 2, which allows you to download the human narrated voices for, human narrated books, for example. You have to sign in using a browser. And this also comes in handy when you're in a hotel and you need to sign in. So you're a Hilton Honors member, perhaps, or a Marriott Bonvoy member. And what they require you to do oftentimes is to connect to the Wi-Fi network and then go into the web browser where you can insert your last name and your room number. And that's how you get on their network. So previously there was not a way to do that in version 1.
Be My Eyes.
So let's go ahead. Be My Eyes is an app that I have actually installed. And it works really well, actually. So in fact, I had my dog's bandage came off, and he has this way of saying, "Oh, my bandage is off." The other end, I think I'll eat that. And to avoid that whole scenario, I was able to call Be My Eyes and with my SensePlayer last night, and they said, "Hey, is it blue?" And it's like, "Yeah." And I was able to identify it using my SensePlayer. Yeah, I know I could have done it on my phone, but my phone wasn't in my pocket because I was reading books on my SensePlayer. So that's what I had. It's like they say, the best camera you have is the one that you have on you, right? Okay, so Be My Eyes is not on that list of applications because we wanted to make the applications that are in the
BBC Sounds.
the folder,
Audible. Apple Music. Amazon App Store. Amazon App Installer.
the app installer folder. We wanted to make those more pertinent to the function of the main function of the device, and that is, of course, as a multimedia and a communications device. So I'm going to go ahead and right arrow on the applications
Zoom.
folder,
App
installer rather, to open this folder.
App
And-
download dialog.
And folks, what we have here is a dynamic, basically a FTP folder, right? You've got to be online in order for you to browse these options in here.
Dolphin Easy Reader 2.5 list item.
And here are the things that I just don't use, but that doesn't mean that I won't use them down the road.
Learning Ally Audiobooks 3.5 list item.
So Dolphin Easy Reader, Learning Ally, if you're a student, I understand it works quite well.
0.45 list item.
Sero, I also understand works quite well.
Spotify 5.5 list item.
There's Spotify. I'm not a Spotify subscriber. You may have heard Pandora in my list of applications, so you might be a Spotify subscriber. This comes by default in this folder.
Chirp 1.5 list item.
And there's a service that I've never even heard of before called Chirp, but it's another audiobook folder. I hadn't heard of it before. I talked to a friend of mine who was saying, hey, could you include Chirp in those lists of applications? And it's like, oh yeah, sure. What is it? Are we talking about bird calling here? But it is a audiobook, a very, I guess, very well respected, highly regarded audiobook services, just like Audible.
Dolphin Easy Reader.
And of course, Audible, you heard in my list of applications, that is in here by default in this, but if you have it installed, it's not going to be in this folder. So
Chirp 1.5 list item.
Let's go ahead and get back out here.
Amazon Alexa.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go down.
Amazon App Store.
And
Apple Music. Audible. Bard Mobile.
Let's pick
BBC Sounds.
Let's pick an app. I'm going to delete this app. Okay. Hey, how am I doing on time, Myrna?
Yeah, I was just going to tell you, Earl.
I know I heard you're clear and you come on, guy.
Yeah.
No, get to it.
It's 8:48, so maybe I hate to stop you, but I know people are going to have some questions. So
I'm almost done.
Okay. We'll let you go for 2 minutes.
Okay. So
Bard Mobile. BBC Sounds.
So I'm going to delete this.
Uninstall BBC Sounds. Yes, combo box.
And it's really that easy. I've now uninstalled
Amazon
BBC
Alexa.
Sound.
Amazon App Store.
And I'm going to go back up
Amazon App Installer.
to the app installer.
App download dialog. App BBC Sounds 160.
And there it is. It's in my app installer. So it detected that it compared the files on the server to the files on my device, and it just puts the apps that you don't already have installed in this folder. And we're just going to continue to add to that. I'm going to go for my
File
next
manager. All apps.
My next
Amazon
trick
Alexa.
in the next minute or so is I'm going to go down to
Apple Music.
Bard.
Audible. Bard Mobile.
And this could be anything. This could be, Bard or Audible. What I basically want to demonstrate.
Bard Mobile. Bard Mobile.
Loading.
Okay, so I'm in a book
Bard Mobile. Now reading.
now called The Bregden Chronicles. And
button bookshelf. Tab 1 of for in list. 4 items.
so I'm in the Bard mobile app. So it made sense to us that we didn't have to go get a licensing for you guys, to be able to read Bard books because it's an Android device. So just like on the phone, if you know the lay of the land,
Button increase speed out of list.
I know that if I press the left arrow 4 times here,
Button fast forward. Button play.
I'm going to be on the play button here, and I can just play my book.
Media control.
At least I hope so. My dream is to someday be like Grandma Alice. Harry hugged her friend to her.
Now, if I
say you're well on your way,
press
She pulls
the
back. We better get to the hospital. God might ultimately be responsible, but I still have a job to do. Within minutes, they crested the hill.
okay, so we have identified some pretty commonly used multimedia functions, like the ability to be anywhere in this application and press the OK and the 0 button.
Button fast forward.
So I'm on the fast forward button now. I'm going to press OK and 0.
And reach the plateau.
And you hear
in
that's
Toronto Hospital.
no matter where I am,
Gazed over the ri-
I can use OK plus 0 and start and stop my playback. If I want to rewind,
Button play. Button rewind.
I can go to the rewind button, and if I press and release the 0 key,
back 20 seconds.
There's that eSpeak
Back
voice.
1 minute. Back 5 minutes.
And then I press and release the 0 key again. I've gone back 5 minutes. So, like on the phone, you have to double tap and hold. This is the same as doing a double tap and hold. Okay. So I just wanted to show you that. The thing that I regret that I didn't get into is Bookshare. But it's super easy to go and get periodicals. What that means is that you can go, and if you're looking for the New York Times, it's super easy to go, and just get this content without any advertising. Not to mention, access to thousands upon thousands of publications as well, or books and publications. So,
Joshua, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, but I gotta say, Earle, I gotta say the update is I don't even have a SensePlayer, and it's very impressive. I remember when I first saw the list, I was like practically every application in the SensePlayer, it had something done to it. I mean, which was really cool. And I mean, I looked at the manual. That manual is it's incredibly detailed. It tells you how to do everything. And of course I've listened to that Jenny Axler podcast that you were playing. I listened to that on YouTube, and that is very detailed as well. So if anybody is thinking about getting a SensePlayer, there's plenty of there's plenty of information out there that you can look up that'll help you make your decision.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. Jenny's one hard working lady. I mean, she does all the documentation. She did all that, the tutorial. It comes on every SensePlayer. So everything in that podcast is actually part of the tutorial as well. So I think I mentioned earlier, 6 hours plus. I think it's like 6.5 hours worth of content. So it's a fabulous resource for learning how to use the SensePlayer.
Okay. Next question, David Edick. You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
I really do like the update. I did the update right before you did the webinar. The only one complaint, and I know it's not Hims' fault, is that you don't have direct access to the buttons. You guys did the best you could do, but
yeah,
I really like when you're playing an audiobook directly, you hit the OK button, it plays, you left and right, it moves forward and back. And I wish that could be implemented in NLS, but I have other devices for that, so I'm okay. But
we're doing the OK 0, right?
Yeah.
To stop and start, and then OK star to go to the previous whatever the unit is you're navigating by.
Yeah, that's
right. And
like I said, do the best.
That's the best we could do.
What I would suggest is have you've got the different layouts for the keyboard, web browser mode, typing mode, and I forget what the third one is, navigation or something like
navigation, input, and web browsing mode. That's when you're talking about the Smart Connect.
Yeah, that's in the Smart Connect. But if you did something like that with media playback, so in media playback mode, and if you guys could map the keys to the buttons like with the 0,
that's an interesting thought.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Debbie Deathridge, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
I thought I'd heard that you could do Zoom on that, and if you can, how would you do that? And my second question is, I'm assuming with like the Be My Eyes, you would need the one with the camera on it.
Yeah. You would definitely, you wouldn't want the one with the camera on it. Otherwise, you'd have to connect a USB-C camera and utilize it that way, which is, all doable. But if you think you want to use a camera on the device like this, it's about $145 more. I think it's probably, if OCR is one of your goals,
it's not real important.
Way to go. Yeah. Lookout works phenomenally well with the SensePlayer, even though when you launch it, it actually says this app requires Google Play services, and there's an OK button. That's really just an innocuous message that is not even a fact. I mean, you dismiss it by pressing OK on it, and then it just works fantastic. There are several applications out there like that. We try not to put those applications into our app installer because, we just don't want an application that's going to error out right away when people launch it. But Be My Eyes does not error out. The camera is the image is really good quality for the volunteer looking through your camera. And I think the camera is the way to go personally for me.
And how about Zoom?
How about what?
Zoom.
Oh yeah, Zoom. I actually do have that here.
App installer. Zoom.
There's Zoom, and I could go in here and join this meeting if I wanted to, but I would get a lot of noise going on. And I could use the camera on it. And so Zoom works phenomenally well. You can navigate around and press okay on the mute, and then you can unmute and mute and do all the things that you would ordinarily do in a Zoom meeting.
How do you? I guess you have to put the actual ID numbers in there, the individual numbers. You have to do it that way.
Yeah, that would be the way to do that. Or what else could you? You could take your email that you got the Zoom invitation, save it as an HTML document, and just copy and paste the URL in there. But the ID number it's a 10-digit number. It's usually the only thing you need. It's probably the easiest way is just to type in that ID number.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Albert51 at charter.net. Unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes, good evening, and thank you for doing this presentation. It's very good.
Thank you.
How do you do a check for updates? And also, is there a battery status that tells you how much battery stats you have left in the
Yeah. So if I press and hold on the side, there's the up and down buttons I adjust my volume with and my pitch and rate and things like that. If I press and hold the bottom one,
86% charge using battery.
I hear that I've got an 86% battery charge. So that's the way you do that. And if I press and hold the one above it, the volume up one.
0800 24 p.m.
Yeah. So the update, if I go to the main menu, I can always check for updates by going to my main menu.
File manager.
Up arrowing to utilities.
Settings. Utilities.
I'm going to expand that.
Recordings.
And if I up arrow, it's the last item in the list. So it's going to wrap around to the bottom.
Upgrade SensePlayer firmware.
And there's SensePlayer firmware.
Upgrade SensePlayer firmware.
Okay.
Beta online combo box.
And there, because I'm a beta tester, I could do this. And if I press enter on this, which I will.
The currently installed firmware is the latest. Continue
I hear
the installation. Yes, combo box.
I hear that the currently installed is the latest. And do I want to do it anyways? And it says it's on the yes.
No combo box.
But no, I don't want to do that. So I'll just
upgrade
press,
beta online combo box.
That's how you update.
File manager.
You'll know about the updates when they happen if you're subscribed to our announcements list. Otherwise, you can always just return to the utilities menu and just check and see if there's an update available.
Right.
But we probably should tell you that next Monday we are not going to be here because it's Labor Day. So don't fault Alan for not sending you a newswire, and don't come because we're not going to be here. But on the 11th, Ron Miller is coming, and Ron's going to talk about, from Freedom Scientific, Ron's going to be talking about installation of Braille displays and installation of voices for JAWS, and he might do a little bit on Setting Center as well. So that's what's happening 2 weeks from tonight.
We hope you've enjoyed this video. For more information, you can visit us online at hims-inc.com, or you can send us an email at sales@hims-inc.com, or pick up the phone and call us at 512-837-2000.